Directly ahead of us is the XB-70 Valkyrie, the sole survivor of two that were ever built. It was designed to be a Mach 3 nuclear bomber, strategic bomber, powered by 6 turbojet engines, flew in the 60s. Beautiful, beautiful aircraft. You'll notice that it was a delta wing, and it used what was called canards right up behind the cockpit for attitude control. The engines were mounted in a huge pod under the wing, and twin vertical stabilizers and rudders. At supersonic speeds, the wingtips were designed to drop down in flight to an angle that improved the handling at high speed, made it much more stable. The other prototype was lost in a crash during a photo op flight when an F-104 got caught in the wingtip vortices. At least that's a theory. And it was sucked up into the aircraft. It rolled, came across the top, took off the vertical stabilizers, causing the Valkyrie to go into a uncontrollable flight status. Looking up, you can see the wingtips of the Valkyrie and the hinge section to allow it to fold down. It used split elevators. They're continuing to come around behind the aircraft. Absolutely magnificent aircraft, one of my all-time favorites as far as beauty. Here you can see the 6th exhaust. The cockpit sat about 3 stories off the ground. It gives you quite an idea of the scale of this aircraft. If you look, you can see that the elevators and flaps are split into segments, give it much finer control. Beneath it here we have an X-1B. The X-1A, of course, was the one flown by Chuck Yeager to break the sound barrier. As well as ahead of us is a Douglas X-3 Stiletto. Stiletto was a experimental rocket plane, long and sleek. Continue our drive around of the Valkyrie. This is in the 4th building, the newest building at the Air Force Museum. Contains R&D and presidential aircraft and space gallery. What you see here is the Goblin. This was designed to be carried on the B-36 Peacemaker in the bomb bay, so that it had a defensive fighter in the event of an attack on a mission. It would drop down from a trapeze to launch, and then theoretically would rehook on that trapeze, be pulled back up into the bomb bay. Little aside there. We're coming up directly under the Valkyrie cockpit, and you can get an idea of just how big, how high up that massive cockpit sat. She was just absolutely a gorgeous aircraft. Another high-speed aircraft directly in front of us is the YF-12 Interceptor. This was a interceptor version based on the SR-71 Blackbird. Blackbird, of course, being still the fastest jet-driven, air-breathing aircraft. Top speed was classified, but it flew so high and so fast. Of course, both these aircraft were made out of titanium to stand the heat at such high speed. The leading edges would get almost red hot. When they fueled the aircraft on the ground, it would leak fuel like a sieve. The reason for that was that There had to be tolerances built into it because as it heated up in flight, the joints would get tight and seal up those fuel leaks. You can see on the engine of the YF-12 that spike was driven by a primitive computer, and it would move in and out to control the shock wave so that the air going into the engine would remain subsonic and not cause the engine to flame out.